3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Sorry for the delay. But I figured since we'll be here the whole 3 hours today, I could just start the show a little bit later than normal. I've forgotten how to do a 3-hour show.
It's been like a week for me, man.
So like last Thursday, we did a 3-hour show. But then Friday, I did a 4-hour show, and you weren't even here. And then we didn't have a show on Monday. Then Tuesday and Wednesday, we had 45-minute shows. And so tomorrow we'll have a 45-minute show. But today, it's life as normal. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. In all seriousness, good to have you with us. And it is good to have a full program to do. We got a lot to get to today. Coming up bottom of the hour, our good friend Brad Muller will join us ahead of Carolina basketball tonight. The ladies taking on Arkansas after not just a disappointment, but really, I don't know. A reckoning? I don't know if it's quite that either. For those of you who haven't, been paying a lot of attention to that this week, Dawn Staley in postgame not accusing her team of anything, but just saying from her perspective, and I agree with her, this was something beyond just today's game. Not that, I don't think she wanted to make anything out to be like just this nefarious cloud that is now hanging over South Carolina women's basketball, and it's eating from within and will just disappear into the ether. Like it's not that. But I agree with her that while Connecticut is certainly back to being Connecticut, and I think this year in women's college basketball, we are seeing proof of, at least at the, say, top 10 level, we are seeing some pretty good parity, which is great in my opinion. You're not 29 points worse than Connecticut in your gym. But they were on Sunday, and so what happens, next? Now, Arkansas is not very good, and South Carolina should win tonight. But Brad's going to talk with us about just, what's happened this week and maybe if there was any identification of the beyond basketball things that Dawn was alluding to, because it can create worry if it is something that you don't identify and address with some level of immediacy. I mean, the conference tournament's in 2 weeks.
Oh, and 3 of your last 4 games are quad 1 games.
Yeah.
2 on the road.
Yeah. So we'll talk with Brad. I mean, look, no reason to go like, well, maybe they should just like not even go to the tournaments. It's not that.
No. But
when look, I'm not going to sit here. I despite what Dawn has built, I would think it, and I realize this is subjective, I would think it unfair to say it is title or bust for South Carolina women's basketball. But the expectation of a Final Four, I think, is fair.
That's become what the standard is.
Yeah,
now.
I think that's fair, and that's putting a lot on everybody regardless. Such a big ask. And as we see the parity continue to grow, there are times like you saw on Sunday or like you saw the previous Sunday in Austin, you're going to get beat.
That's basketball, yeah.
You saw it last night.
You just get beat.
You saw it last night in Como, where Missouri took it to Alabama in the first half, and then it was a nip and tuck affair in terms of a second-half performance. But in the end, Missouri beat Alabama by 12. It's the most points Alabama has scored in a loss since the 1979 SEC basketball tournament. I mean, that was a long time ago, man.
Well, they were a couple of possessions away from that happening to them at Rupp.
And you tell me, but I feel, and I think this is a real feather in Missouri's cap, and we'll talk more about this later in the drive around the SEC. I think they played Alabama's game last night, man. I think
they did.
Nate likes to get up and down the floor if he can help it, and they could help it, and they lost by 12. So,
well, that's kind of their bigger issue.
Credit
stopping teams.
Yeah, credit to Missouri for what they did last night. I wouldn't say Auburn had an easy win, but again, I am fascinated by Auburn because I mean this, and I think we said this last season too. If you are Auburn's opponent and your style is to play games in the 40s or 50s or whatever, Bruce Pearl will play with you.
And they'll beat you.
And he'll beat you. If you want to get up to 100, Bruce will play with you, and he'll beat you. And last night, the game stayed in the 60s, kind of like it did here in Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they'll beat you. I mean, that's just
That's what they do, man.
But look, I know he's got players. He's got talent. No question. But that man can coach basketball.
Interesting, yeah. They were talking about that on the Eye on College Basketball podcast about, like, you know, where does Bruce Pearl stand, like, historically, especially with all the coaches that have, you know, it's like if they win the title this year, you know, where do you put him amongst other coaches that have won at least a title? And they are rolling through the list of names of coaches who have won one national championship. And I'm like, man, I would take him over a good chunk of that list in his career. He wins everywhere he goes.
Can you find that list for us? I'd actually like to partake in that that thought exercise.
I'll pull up the list here because, I mean, I was listening to a lot of them. Like, look, Jim Boeheim is considered one of the greatest coaches in the history of college basketball.
Yep.
And he did it all with one school.
Yep.
But given what Bruce Pearl has done at 3 different places who never reached heights, like at Tennessee, he took them to their first ever Elite Eight.
Yep.
He took them to multiple Sweet 16s, which no other coach in that program's history has done. He took UW Milwaukee to the Sweet 16.
I remember
they
that,
have not gotten remotely close to coming back, right? And he took Auburn to the Final Four for the first time ever. And this year, they're the odds-on favorite to win the championship because they're the best team in the entire sport. Like, yes, what Jim Boeheim created, like using Boeheim as an example, because he's one of those, right? Using him as an example, and he won a lot of games. He's at the same place for like a bajillion years. So given, like, take away the raw numbers of wins. If I'm in their coaching prime, picking one coach to build my program, honestly, it's not crazy to say Bruce Pearl.
No, it's not, man. And I know you weren't around, but boy, some of the teams in the 80s that Jim Boeheim built at Syracuse were frighteningly good. But it was proof of how good that conference was and just how good things were nationally when you. But yeah, that's a good one. But we'll find that and we'll have some fun with that coming up in just a little bit. Gamecock baseball winning last night or yesterday afternoon at least. Man, I feel for those kids. It was cold.
I mean, that's a game that you survive not just because it might be a close game, but because who wants to play baseball in that, man?
Well, and
disgusting.
Cloninger was reporting the crowd numbers. It was hard to tell, I suppose, how many people may have come and simply sat, behind or stood rather, on the concourse behind the plate. Maybe just to all huddle together. I don't know if it's any warmer under there than anywhere else.
Maybe they had some space heaters.
But I know every once in a while there's a couple of shots of like a couple of folks in the stands. I'm like, good for you, man. Well, I remember when a foul ball got hit on the berm. It's like, there's nobody on the berm. You wouldn't be. I'm not saying you should have been. But a win's a win, and they got one. They go to 5-0. Coach Maneri just wrapping up a press conference a little bit ago. If we can get some stuff from him, we will. But they'll get back at it tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock as Milwaukee does come down here. So we'll have that for you, of course. And get into a few men's basketball thoughts later on today, too. Texas coming to town on Saturday. Again, we've talked a lot about men's basketball. Is it now really more of what next year looks like? Speaking of which, congratulations. Gamecock signee Eli Ellis wins the MVP of the Overtime Elite League for the second consecutive year. A lot on that kid's plate, man, when it comes to next year. And what does next year start to look like? What can you do to build for the future? We'll touch on those things. And the SEC and Big Ten have wrapped up their meetings, at least for now. Everybody will meet next week for the college football playoff meetings in Dallas. The SEC and Big Ten have said that they will put forth a proposal for the coming playoff to change the seating. We knew this was coming, and it is now official from their perspective. Now, again, it's not official in terms of having it implemented because that'll take a unanimous vote of all 10 conferences that participate and Notre Dame. I don't think they will have any problem getting Notre Dame to say yes to this. Not one problem at all. I think, Elijah, they are going to have a problem. And in so many words, the folks from the Big 12 and ACC have already kind of said it. I didn't even realize this. For as much as we cover college football and pay attention to things, I may have seen this and it slipped through my mental cracks. But apparently the top 4 seeds got an even bigger bonus financially for where they landed. So, Arizona State got more money for being the 4 than if they had been the 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 they would have been. And I get it, but I just didn't think about that. And so, if I'm the Big 12 and I still believe that possibility exists, and why wouldn't you? Because the first playoff told you that you absolutely can, and the same thing with Boise. Why would you vote to change it? And if it's not unanimous, it ain't happening. So while we all, I think as fans, I say all, while a lot of people, maybe a majority around the country, think that seeding needed to change because of how it looked through the rankings and all that kind of stuff, I don't know now. I would, if you ask me, do you think it's going to pass next week? Again, 11-0? No. Not without some further concession, and I wouldn't know what that looks like right now.
That's for them to figure out.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of carrot do you dangle? Keep your cash? Everybody gets the same cash to make the first? I don't know. I don't know. But it's all about the money anyway. And if I'm in a position where I know I made more money last year than I would next year, even if the same things happened, why would I? Again, we talk about Disney not negotiating against itself. Why would the Big 12 and the ACC negotiate against themselves? In 26, you're going to have a new format regardless. And by then, the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten Conference are going to have the ability to craft that more in their own, I don't want to say vision, but certainly tip it in their own best interests. So
play their hand.
But we'll see. Nothing else on scheduling, but maybe some at least internal progress. We'll touch on that both with the Big Ten SEC Challenge and the Southeastern Conference choosing to go to 9 games. So we'll get into all those things for you too. And if you haven't heard, and we'll get more on this at the 5 o'clock news, but there is very disappointing news today out of the NBA. Victor Wembanyama is done for the season for the San Antonio Spurs, a blood clot, and needs to be taken care of immediately. So exactly what all that will entail, I'm not sure, but one of the bright young stars on the planet done for the year, just as the regular season begins to wind down. So that's a blow. That's a blow.
Yeah, well, especially considering, he's going to be the face of the sport.
Yeah.
He's probably the most unique basketball player I have ever seen in my life, right? He is I'm curious to see how the season plays out because as things stand right now, he would be the block champion in terms of most blocks per game in the entire league 2 years in a row to start his career. And he's the block champion, and he has attempted over 8 threes a game on average. Like, he is the embodiment of, the future of basketball. Like, he's going to be the face of that entire sport in the next few years. I don't think he's old enough to legally drink in the United States yet, right? And he's got that kind of burden on him, and he's easily the best player that France has ever produced, and I feel pretty confident that his career trajectory will get to the point where he is the most accomplished French basketball player of all time. This is not just a blow, obviously, for him personally.
Pascal Siakam on line 2.
Definitely not French. Nice try. You now are acknowledging that Pascal Siakam's real. You are
Where's he from? Isn't he French?
Becoming
He's not French?
A truther.
I was thinking he was French. No?
No, he played college ball at New Mexico State.
Okay. I was thinking he was French. It sounded fun anyway. Lots to do on the program. We'll come back around with some of those football meetings for you. Brad Muller joining us bottom of the hour talking Carolina women's hoops. It is the Thursday postgame show. Love telling you about our good friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Soon enough here, I promise you, soon enough, it'll be warm. You'll be wanting to do yard work, or you'll be needing to do yard work, or both. Or both. Get into Cato's right now. Ben, Matt, the entire crew, completely remodeled the showroom. The latest in so many different battery-powered pieces of equipment are in stock and ready for you right now. And you'll say, battery-powered? Man, those things last like 30 minutes. No. Amazing battery life. And listen, they've got some even riding mowers now that are battery-powered that'll go for hours at a time. Batteries that are interchangeable for handheld tools. I mean, again, into your push mower, blower, trimmer, edger, saws, you name it, they've got it. Yes, traditional gas-powered things too. And for those of you who love what you have, need to get it tuned up, ready for the spring, the service department is second to none. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, where they've been since 1983. That's our great friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Twenty minutes after 3 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. It's interesting that this came up. We don't. The computer randomizes our bumps, and for some reason the other day, Elijah Campbell, I was on the treadmill, and what came on? I think it was a Nirvana song. Yeah, it was a Nirvana song that came on,
Nice.
and my mind immediately went to, all right, what are the best three-man bands of all time?
Ooh.
And so I was like, okay, I'll put Nirvana. I'm not a big Nirvana fan. Those that are and the sound is, I get it. I'm not going like Nirvana sucks. No, if I get why people love.
It's not your cup of tea.
It's not. Yeah. It's not.
I'm a '90s grunge fanatic.
Yeah, and I'm not. Even though look, I turned 20 in the '90s and went. I finished college in the '90s, but honestly, I've just always been more of a '70s. I'm a Zeppelin guy. I'm a Van Halen guy. I'm a Pink Floyd guy, and and Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead. But I get why people love Nirvana and Pearl Jam and that Seattle sound and whatnot. But anyway, I digress, as I like to say. But I thought about that. I was like, all right, so there's Nirvana, and, short shelf life, but staying power from, a sort of legendary perspective. And I think that Dave Grohl has continued on in a very popular band.
Oh, yeah. He's done well for himself afterwards.
Helped. But you got Rush.
Rush is up there. Yep.
The Police.
Okay.
Jimi Hendrix Experience.
That was 3.
ZZ Top.
In terms of commercial success, Green Day was wildly popular for a long time. Great man.
Who am I leaving out? I feel like there's somebody I'm leaving out that I was thinking of the other day. That'd be fun. I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer.
Well, because music's so subjective.
Yeah. But I'd probably, for me, like I did like the Police a lot. I like Rush. I'm not again, for a guy who grew up in, came of age musically in the 80s. I like Rush, but I don't like love Rush. So some people do, man. I had a couple of buddies who just. And they're good. I'm not saying they're not good. I like it. But I'm probably forgetting some here and there. ZZ Top, and ZZ Top had they had their big run in the 80s, but they were already popular. I guess you could, even though you can't really say the Bee Gees because the Bee Gees didn't play their music. Right. That doesn't quite count. I think it needs to be all the three.
Playing the instruments
they were
and
doing
the
it.
vocals.
Yes, they were doing it. Yes. Again, Barry Gibb could play the guitar. I don't know that Morris or Robin could do anything other than sing harmony for Barry. That's my opinion. I don't know. I do know this. They probably all have like 6 boats and 12 cars, and
they can do their non-instrument playing on those.
Although I think maybe a couple of the brothers Gibb are. Is at least one of them no longer with us, I believe?
Oh, yeah. And then there was Andy, I guess, before.
But he was his
long
own.
Time ago.
But he was not a BG. He was a Gibb brother.
Yes.
But he was not a member of the Brothers Gibb. So there's that.
Brothers Gibb.
I think that's where the Bee Gees came from. The Brothers Gibb. Yeah. That's the way I've always been told. Anyway.
I never heard that story. I like that.
There you go. And again, I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, so if you want to hit me up with a 3-man band that I'm not thinking of, I'll be more than happy to take some into account. This could be a good Top 5 Friday one day.
It could. Gotten a couple of nominations on the YouTube comments here. Primus and Cream.
Cream was a 3-man band. Okay. I got to tell you, do I know anything by Primus? I probably have
you ever
heard
watched South Park?
Yeah.
South Park theme song.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Jerry was a race car driver. Great song.
Okay. Who's Primus's lead singer?
I don't know. Don't even need to know.
All right. Primus. Okay. I would not have known, to be perfectly honest with you, that Primus was a 3-man band. But anyway, that's how my mind works sometimes.
Mine barely works sometimes.
So. Meanwhile, the Big Ten and Southeastern Conference have indeed agreed that they would like to see the seeding next year based on ranking and just seed them up accordingly. Why, you may ask? Well, I think because they realized that if they had done this last year, that they'd each had 2 of the top 4 seeds.
Absolutely, yeah.
But instead, it got kind of convoluted. I don't know. I get it. And I think ultimately this is what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, as I mentioned at the top of the show. I don't know if this passes unanimously next week. But if it had been this way this season, I'll tell you, the single, in my opinion anyway, the single best on-campus matchup, I don't want to say game, because what ultimately happened isn't what we were hoping for, but the single best on-campus matchup that we were given was when Tennessee went to Ohio State.
Yes.
Now, Ohio State decided to, flex their muscle for the first time all season and then continued to do so into winning a championship.
And then smack everybody up in the process.
But I think, what would we have gotten instead? It was in here. Hang on. We would have instead, now wait for this, okay? Instead of that, the same game would have been Indiana and Boise. And while you may say, if you're a football fan, I might like to have watched that.
I would have liked to have watched that.
The Walt Disney Company would have been like, oh, my God, we have to show that on television to people that don't really care about college football.
Well, that's how you know that Disney Corporation don't know ball.
No, but as we've talked about, you and I will watch almost any of these kinds of games at any point during the week, at any time of the day. But they don't care about us in the sense that they know they take us for granted. And you know what? Suckers that we are, we let them.
Oh, yeah. I'll watch Coastal Carolina and App State play on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. Well, but, the average person, and let's face it, you and I are not the average person for a lot of reasons, isn't going to do that. But they'll watch Ohio State and Tennessee.
Even if it's a total tail kicking. That is true. That will bring naturally more eyeballs. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Boise and Indiana, Bob Knight. See? All right. Boise. Is that in Canada? That's what the average American is going to say. Bob Knight and Canada. Both are wrong for the purposes of this discussion.
Yes.
But
that would have been a really good football game, though.
That's what we're... Sure.
That would have been a fun one.
Sure. But... So, anyway, I don't think this is going to pass, man. Again, without further concession. But if I'm the Big 12 and ACC, no. Because if I'm the ACC, I'm going to expect that Clemson, who won my conference championship last year, is going to do so without losing 3 games this time.
Mm-hmm.
That Florida State will elevate themselves again.
They won't be 2-10.
That Bill Belichick could ultimately make a difference this year. Probably not. If I'm the Big 12, Arizona State already got one of the top 4. And we have Deion Sanders, and we have Utah.
BYU had a really good
BYU
year.
is BYU. Texas Christian played for a championship a couple of years ago. Why can't they get back? Maybe Mike Gundy turns it around. Who knows? I get it. I wouldn't vote for it. I want this to happen. I want this to happen, but I don't think it's gonna. Not this year.
Well, I think if that happens, that's for the betterment of the sport and the entertainment process. Because I do think we would have gotten more competitive first-round games. But in terms of the other non-ACC, SEC and Big Ten conferences, it is against your best interests to vote for it.
Speaking of music, I don't know how many people are in Dierks Bentley's band, but later on in the program, we are going to give you a chance to see him up in Charlotte, I believe, this summer. So stay tuned for that, you Dierks Bentley fans. In the meantime, you Brad Muller fans, stay tuned, because on the other side of the break,
that's me.
The voice of Carolina women's basketball joins us ahead of tonight's game with Arkansas. Time to get it back on track. We'll talk to Brad when the postgame show returns. Love telling you about integrated media. How you watching what you watch? Do you want to do it better than ever? Were you at a big game party recently and said, man, this guy's house that I'm at tonight has a really cool setup. Can I do that at my house? Yes. Maybe you've been to a sports bar recently and said, can I get like a wall of TVs just like they have here at this particular sports bar? Yes. Maybe you love the setup you already have at your home when it comes to home theater, in the family room or in your man cave or frog. and you say, time for the newest in equipment so they can have even better picture and sound. Can I do that and have them come in and fix it up? Yes, you can. Integrated Media does all this and so much more. And as soon as the weather turns, you'll be like, man, a ball game outside while I'm grilling some burgers and having a beer. Yep, you can do that with equipment that looks and sounds just like the indoors does, and it's built to be outside all the time. Plus, Wi-Fi that works everywhere for better streaming, gaming, and working. 803-948-8327. Work with my good friends at Integrated Media. Time to talk a little Carolina women's hoops. Welcome back in. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Always a pleasure to be joined by our good friend Brad Muller, the voice of Carolina women's basketball. He'll be on the call tonight, 6:30, 7 o'clock tip, Carolina and Arkansas. They'll be heard on our sister station here in Columbia, 98.5 FM. Mr. Muller, let's maybe just get your assessment of what unfolded in front of you on Sunday afternoon.
I think like the 18,000 people sitting there, I think, shock and surprise. And not so much that you lose because, yes, you're accustomed to winning at home, even against top 10 teams. And UConn's starting five is certainly, one of the tops in the country. But like everyone else, the manner in which it happened, where you really got outplayed in every phase of the game, was, disconcerting. You can live with it if you had a bad shooting night or someone got hot, but yeah, it was just getting beat in all phases of the game and getting outworked at times where, a team that wasn't that big, in terms of team size and depth in that area, really crushed you on the boards. I think that was one of the more surprising things, and, how poorly they played defensively. And a lot of that, according to Coach Staley, was, especially in the transition defense, was because of poor shot selection offensively, led to, not being able to get back on defense matchup or switch, what have you, and you leave some good shooters. UConn was the best shooting team in the country, by field goal percentage, and they had a lot of wide open looks at the basket, whether it was, under the basket in transition or even the three-point shooting. You left good shooters wide open, and it was like practice shots for them. So, yeah, it was a little bit surprising the way it happened, but, fortunately, as, the cliche goes, you've still got all your goals in front of you. You still got a chance at an SEC championship and all the other good stuff. So, hopefully they can turn the page and get better starting tonight.
Yeah, I guess with the obvious difference between last year and this year being a couple of digits in the L column, I guess one thing this year with this team specifically, some of the weaknesses that you alluded to, kind of getting beat on the glass. This is the first time I've seen this team kind of really get outclassed in transition. I mean, a 31-12 transition or fast break point differential is something I just never foresaw happening to this team this year. But what of, I guess, some of the weaknesses that have kind of shown themselves in the Texas loss, in this loss, in the UCLA loss, is going to be the toughest to fix?
Well, I think some things you can't fix, depending on matchups such as UCLA and Texas, where you are just outsized, is the rebounding. You're going to struggle. But again, UConn, you weren't really outsized, but rebounding has been a struggle. So to me, that's a priority on the defensive side of things. Obviously on the offensive glass too. But I think in 4 of the last 7 games, the Gamecocks have been out-rebounded, and of a couple of the games where they did win the rebounding battle, it was only by 1 or 2. So, this is a team and a program that in recent years you're used to them being dominant on the glass. I mean, we're talking, plus 10, plus 12, every night under the glass on average. And, 4 of the last 7 games you've been out-rebounded. In the last few and some of the games where you did out-rebound your opponent was only by 1 or 2. So that's got to get better, I think, on both ends of the floor. And yes, depending on the matchup, size can make a difference there. But, I think we all learned this in middle school. There's also the want-to aspect of it because, there were guards for UConn that were doing a great job of crashing the boards. We just weren't getting a rear end on them, to box them out. So, there's a little more, to me, a sense of urgency in that, and the technique and the want to go grab some more rebounds because you can't give great shooting teams, more opportunities. And if you're not having your best shooting night, one shot and out isn't going to do it.
Brad, we've asked you before when there have been dips, with the team, is Dawn going to look to change starting lineup or her rotation or anything like that? But kind of piggybacking off of the last answer you gave there about the concerns over rebounding, and you can't bring Ashlyn Watkins back this year. You can't make a trade for a Camila Cardoso type of player. That's not how it works in college. So where are the trade-offs? Is there going to be something Dawn can do to keep certain players on the floor longer in an effort to rebound better? But is there a sacrifice offensively or somewhere else along the way? How tricky might that be if the book is now a little more open on Carolina as we head towards March?
That does get tricky because, no, she's probably not going to change her lineup, because it really was a team effort or lack thereof, in the loss on Sunday. So, she did try substituting some of the players that don't play as much that are bigger, whether it was Sakima Walker or Adele Tack, but right now they just can't give you as much as what you need on the offensive end. So, maybe it was too big of a trade-off. You can put them in for moments to try to help, stop a run here and there and give yourself some second chances. But it's really up to those older players, and I think that's something she talked about yesterday when Coach met with the media. Is that, she put it simple: the experienced players have to be better. She's talking about the juniors and seniors. They know that they have to be better, and that's part of it. It's not like they can't do it. Yes, this team, because you don't have what you had last year with Camila Cardoso, you lose Ashlyn Watkins, almost 2 months ago now. You know that it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle because you don't have those dominant rebounders. Well, guess what? You still got to rebound. So those older players, just have to step up their game a little bit, and that's what she talked about yesterday. The older players, simply have to play better. So I don't see the lineup changes, coming. This is still a team that's won 23 games, including 9 games against ranked teams with the usual lineup. So, including a win over Texas. So, this team does know how to win. They just have to be a little bit more consistent than they've been the last week and a half. Hopefully they can the bad taste out of their mouths and take care of business, because after tonight you've got back-to-back road games against teams that are ranked or have been ranked most of the year, and then you close out with a good top 15 Kentucky team at home. So you want to go into the postseason playing your best basketball, and you're going to have to do it down the stretch here against some pretty good teams.
All right, Brad, I'm going to have you put on your bracketologist hat here for a second. Looking through Charlie Cream's bracketology, his latest one, he has UCLA as the number 1 overall seed, which I disagree with pretty heavily, just because of not just the quad 1 wins that South Carolina has, but the fact that 8 of them come against teams that are the top 20 in net. Only Texas is the only other team with a number similar to that. But you look at the schedules for South Carolina, Texas, and UCLA the rest of the way, and South Carolina is the only one with 3 quad 1 games still to go to end the regular season. There's a really good chance that South Carolina still leads the country in quad 1 wins and with the most wins over top 20 teams in the net before we even get to Greenville for the SEC tournament. Where do you think this team's resume would still maybe stand when it comes to how the number 1 overall seed is going to be given out on Selection Sunday?
Yeah, if they can find a way to win out the regular season, that keeps them as I believe as a number 1 seed. Obviously, if you win these last 4 regular season games, and then South Carolina is still going to have, as you said, still going to have the most wins against ranked teams, the most games against ranked teams, and all the quad 1 wins and all that. The resume is going to look fantastic. I think what it really could come down to is how the conference tournament goes. Usually, you don't like to say that. Recency does matter in some people's minds, and the fact that South Carolina has had 2 of their losses recently is probably going to affect some people. But the conference tournament, it could be very interesting, especially if South Carolina and Texas win out and they have to do the whole coin flip thing. Because if you lose the coin flip, then you're going to end up, most likely, if you win, you're going to have to play LSU and Texas on back-to-back days. Most likely if seeds hold and something like that. So it makes it tough. So that conference tournament could really throw a lot of weight, because there's a good chance if you're winning, you're going to in some really good teams, depending on how that coin flip goes. So, no, I agree that I think they're still in there as a 1. If they win out the regular season, yes. But if they have trouble in the conference tournament, who knows? Because the whole recency thing could, throw a dart at them or something. But it's going to be interesting. I knew UCLA was going to lose once to Southern Cal, because that's what happens every year. So it didn't surprise me when Southern Cal beat them, because they're really good too. And as we learned last year, even though South Carolina did it, no matter how good you are, it's really hard to go undefeated, and UCLA's learned that. I think UCLA is still one of the toughest matchups, because they have great guards and they're huge in the post and they've got depth in the post. So I think if UCLA wins out, it's going to, and if they don't have another loss, it's going to be hard to knock them out because of just what they have in terms of size and depth. But, fortunately, I don't get to make that decision, but everything is in South Carolina's own hands. They really don't have to depend on anything. It's oversimplifying it, but hey, just win and you're going to be in good shape.
Good stuff as always, sir. Have a great call tonight, and then Brad will be in Nashville. Try to find Elijah's wallet. He dropped it on the street when he was up there for a concert.
If you see my ID, please return
bring it back to him.
Your real ID or your fake ID?
The one that says I'm about 5 years younger than what I am now.
Gotcha. All right, I'll go look for it.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate you.
Take care, guys.
That's
Thanks.
Brad Muller. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Postgame Show rolls on this Thursday. Again, our first regular show together in a week, which is nice. How you doing? It's good to see you.
Lots happened.
Yeah.
Like the last 2 days have been quick, high and buys.
They have. I was worried yesterday that we were not. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't think they were going to play baseball yesterday. So I was looking. You and I had prepared a full show.
Yes.
I'll freely admit we didn't prepare a full show on Tuesday because we knew they were going to play because it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a little chilly, but they were going to play baseball on Tuesday up in Rock Hill. But yesterday we talked and we're like, prepared for a full show. But again, I texted two independent people in the know. And again, and one. So I told Elijah, one of them said, just texted back, we're playing. That was it. And that was at like 10:30. I'll look. Hang on. But it was like 10:30, right? When did I?
Yep. I mean, that's before you called me, I guess, in the morning.
Yeah. Let's see. It was 11:03. 11:03. We're playing.
Pretty definitively.
And I immediately got to you and said, this person tells me we're playing. And what did you say? Like, should I put this on Freezing Cold Takes?
Yeah, should I Freezing Cold Take it?
And I just did the shoulder shruggy guy. And the person that told me that is immensely trustworthy.
Yes, absolutely.
There's just zero doubt about, ability here.
I trust him with my life.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah. In fact, I know I would. But I still thought it was going to get rained out.
Because it was not a beautiful day.
It was just gross. Ugh.
I get the schedule is what the schedule is, and you got to fit a season in before a certain time. Baseball is not meant to be played in February.
Yeah.
It's just not.
So anyway, it's good to be back. And we've had today, as we often do, we will stray sometimes, out of our bounds. And by sometimes, almost every day. Two things. First off, Pascal Siakam is from Cameroon.
Cameroon, that's right. Yes. French territory, right?
Yeah.
Or we used to be.
I was thinking that he, at one point, might have been on the French team, but apparently I was wrong.
Well, I mean, you denied his existence until about an hour ago.
Yeah.
You refused to believe he was real. So
If
all your
anybody-
Pascal Siakam information.
Yeah. And those
are
of you
drinking
who,
information through a fire hose here.
Those of you who love Pascal Siakam, now, again, this story is a few years ago when Kawhi was in Toronto. I was co-hosting, at the time with Pearson Fowler, who, like Elijah, is a big NBA fan. In fact, I used to joke that Pearson would buy is it League Pass? Which one is there?
League Pass.
League Pass.
Yeah.
I said Pearson would buy League Pass 2, which is like nothing but shoot around.
It's the G League games.
No, he would no, not even games.
Just the shoot around.
Shoot around. Like the camera in the tunnel, in between shoot around and tip off.
Oh, that's the funny thing. On League Pass, you can even still watch warm-ups.
Sure. Anyway. So I said to Pearson, I was like, all right, obviously I know who Kawhi is. I say, but tell me one other player on the Toronto Raptors that's worth a darn. He's like, oh, no, Pascal Siakam. And I was like, you just made that up. That's what I did. That was the story. I was like, you just made up a name. You took phonetic sounds and you placed them together. And you came up with that.
And that was the genesis of your Pascal Siakam denial.
Yes. And then, I remember Pearson proceeding to oh, no, here's his stats. And I was like.
Oh, yeah, Jay, he's an NBA All-Star. That's probably what he was rolling out.
Yeah.
This guy is an All-Star.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. I was like, I still think you just made it up, but I'll take your word for it. But then lo and behold, in the not too, right around then, I actually watched the Toronto Raptor game. And I was like, oh. Pascal Siakam.
Like when they won the NBA championship.
Well, I think it was, this was probably headed into the postseason.
Okay.
Because as I freely admit, I'm not much of an NBA regular season guy. I'm just because the postseason is more than long enough to get into it.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have zero interest in watching the Kings and Wizards or the Hornets and Pistons or whoever else.
Man, watching the Washington Wizards at any point is a real chore.
Yeah.
Poor Wolf Blitzer got out of the TV studio for one night in the NBA game he got to go to that he felt so inclined to tweet about because he's so happy to do it was Wizards Hornets. Somebody loved that man enough to get him to a real NBA game, please.
Callers 4 and 5 right now. You want to go see Dierks Bentley this summer up in Charlotte? Callers 4 and 5. Elijah will hook you up with tickets. 803-404-6100. 803-404-6100. Dierks Bentley tickets, 2 pair, coming up. Hour 2 is as well. 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Second hour of the Postgame Show coming at you from downtown Columbia's Herndon Chevy Studios along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate Brad Muller's time. Coming up bottom of the hour, our buddy Mitch Light of The Athletic covering college football. We'll talk with Mitch about the meetings that took place in New Orleans this week between the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. We've already touched on a little bit of what they want, but there are several other things that don't directly involve the college football playoff. That being said, Elijah Campbell, I know you agree with what I'm getting ready to say. A lot of what the Big Ten and SEC may be doing from a scheduling perspective is at least in part going to have an effect on how they want to look at the college football playoff and automatic qualification spots, some things like that. We'll talk more with Mitch about what he's hearing on that in just a little bit. And I want to get into, there's a story up in Chapel Hill that I want to get to because I think it's an interesting one that could have ramifications across a larger landscape. I'm torn with the automatic qualifier spots in the college football playoff. I mean, look, you can get it, whatever it is, sometimes when you're talking about something, but it doesn't mean you agree with it. So I get it. I just think it's kind of like, for one thing, I've heard it's just kind of unsporting. It's probably too strong.
I've described it as being running counter to the spirit of sports. Yeah. Of the game itself.
I've also heard people saying, though, and I'm not sure if this is agree or disagree or anything. I've heard people saying, well, if you just have automatic qualifiers, then it just becomes an invitational. I'm not being snarky when I say this. In the grand scheme, every NCAA tournament is technically an invitational. And if it weren't, we wouldn't have all the hand-wringing that we have at the end of the selection show every March or whenever. But especially, I mean, I swear, man, again, this is just me observing. I'm not being judgmental, at least not attempting to be, all right? It may be latent in there somewhere. But honestly, man, like when you switch off of CBS and the brackets are done and you switch over to Dickie V and Coach Greenberg and everybody on ESPN, the first 45 minutes of that first hour of their show is nothing but who didn't make it. I'm like, bro, we're talking about 10, 11, and 12 seeds here. You got to win that game in December. You got to win that overtime game in February, whatever it might be. My point is, they didn't get invited because there were at-large slots available for the committee to use. It is an invitational in the grand scheme. Like, the NFL playoffs are not an invitational. The NFL has a structured system. There will be 8 division winners. They will all get a home game. Then there will be 3 wild cards per conference. They will get road games. And then we'll figure it out from there. But everybody makes it on some form of merit. Yes, there are wild card teams that, there are division winners where maybe they get in and, again, the Saints were like 9-8 a couple years ago, or maybe even 8-9, right? And the Bucs had a year like that. It happens, but they won their division. And then there's like an 11-win team that didn't make it. But it's not at the expense of the division winner. It's the expense of another wild card team. So I got no problem with that. Again, there's a structured system in place that everybody agrees to. Coming back around to the college game, I get why you want to. Hey, you're looking out for you, man. If you're the SEC and Big Ten. But if they were to get 8, if it stays at 12 and they get 8 of them, yuck.
That's dumb.
No. That's, you can't.
That de-incentivizes football for a majority of the teams participating in the FBS.
Which is why we, at least most of us, believe this thing isn't going to stay at 12.
No.
Again, I just go ahead. Let's not. this little incremental, let's go to 14, and then we'll just go to 16. Just do it. Just go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off.
Can we just get some consistency? Whatever your end game is, let's accelerate that, and let's just start to have a consistent format here on out.
But even then,
would be great.
Like you and I were talking about this off air. There might be years where the SEC would not benefit from 4. Might be years where the Big Ten wouldn't benefit from 4 because you might get 5. Hell, you might get 6. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be kind of hard, I think, to get any more than 5 just because eventually you get into what you had with South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama. Who am I leaving out that had 3 losses and didn't make it?
That was just them. Yeah, those. Missouri, technically.
But yeah, Missouri. I know there was somebody, but
didn't beat anybody of importance on that schedule.
But you're still somebody's going to get left out.
Yeah,
that's just the nature of the beast. Somebody's going to get left out. But artificially doing it, I'm a little squeamish. Man.
It diminishes the accomplishment of getting in too, right? It's kind of like, you only made it because we have to get 4 teams from this conference. And this isn't isolated to the SEC or Big Ten. If we did 4 auto bids for every league, right? I mean, look, auto bids are for small, they are for representation for everybody that participates in the entire sport, like in basketball, the basketball tournaments, right? It's to include all of those conferences and give them a representative into this thing. It doesn't diminish that because those schools wouldn't make it if they didn't have that automatic qualifier opportunity. So it's a big deal for them, right? Do you think that the biggest prize of winning the SEC or Big Ten men's basketball or women's basketball tournaments is because you got the auto bid to the NCAA tournament? No, because you're probably making it anyway unless you're the 2006 Georgia team that came out of nowhere and won it. Then, yes.
Was that the tornado year?
That was the tornado year, then, yes, congratulations. That is a big deal because that got you into the tournament.
Yeah. And State did it a few years before that. I think State got in one time winning it. And
the NC State team this past year, they got in because they won that conference tournament 5 games in 5 days.
Well, heck, Connecticut, right, under Kevin Ollie.
Yeah.
Had to win 5 games. Anyway, I get your point. Yes.
Exactly. That's kind of what those are for.
Rare.
Not just so you can penny grab everything that you can get. Because, look, you don't even really need the auto qualifier, the automatic, qualifier, because more than likely those teams are probably going to get in. Look, the SEC almost had a couple of 9-3 teams get in. No other conference in America was going to get a 9-3 team in,
right?
Except for the SEC.
And you and I talked about that. The schedule strength did keep South Carolina, Mississippi, and Alabama in the conference. Alabama may be a little bit of a different story, but nevertheless, 9-3 is 9-3, and it kept them in the conversation because the committee did say yes, strength of schedule mattered to us a lot more than you may believe. But I think SEC fans are just like, ours is really hard. And it is hard. There's nobody's questioning
it's supposed to be hard.
The difficulty, but that's what you signed up for.
Breaking
it's the Southeastern Conference.
Making the college football playoff out of the SEC is supposed to be very difficult.
Yes, and so I get why they want to reward more teams for it. But, again, what if you're handicapping yourself in some capacity by – and again, I don't know if all 3 of those teams, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, would have made it if there were a 16-school field. I don't know.
Honestly, they probably would have.
Probably would have.
Yeah.
And then you'd have had
more teams involved in this. Yeah.
And then you'd have had 6. Now, and you may say, well, if there's an at-large, they might get it. They might. But there might also be an appetite inside that committee room for like,
we already gave these 4, Here's my thing. I have a feeling if there's a concession to be given with the other that will go to the other conferences, if they get the 4 auto bids automatically for Big Ten and SEC, if I'm the ACC and Big 12, I say, okay, we'll give you that if you cap it at 4.
Yeah.
You only send
your participation.
You send your 4 best teams, or else I would not agree to that
you
whatsoever.
Can't get
what
the
would
at
the point
large.
Of them agreeing to
you
that?
Can't get the at-large. Yeah, something like that. And they would say no to that.
Yeah.
So, again, why do it? Well, here's why. Because, and we'll talk with Mitch about this as well and get his point of view. Mitch Light of The Athletic coming up at the bottom of the hour. What if the SEC and Big Ten do indeed start some type of annual football challenge? It's being discussed. Let's put it this is no longer like pipe dream trial balloon type stuff. It's now gotten to the stage, from everything I've read yesterday and today, it's gotten to the stage of what would that look like, A, and B, for the losers, because, newsflash, every game you play, somebody loses. True story.
Crazy. I have a wild theory that the teams that participate in this challenge will only cumulatively be 500.
No more draws.
Be able to do that.
No more draws in college football, right? NFL still has them. Soccer still has them.
Lame.
But no more draws in college football. So somebody's going to lose. How much harm does it do the loser if the loser also were to lose twice in conference? Dare I say, like South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi, 3 times in conference. Really hard schedule. What if Alabama had lost to Wisconsin and still lost its games? That's and maybe that Wisconsin team last year was what, 7 wins or something?
No, 5.
Oh, 5.
They didn't even go bowling.
All right. What if that was a more typical 8, 9, maybe even 10 win Wisconsin team? And Alabama's 8-4, but the strength of schedule has it amongst the 7, 8, 9 top 10 schedules in the country in terms of strength. How does it affect them? And do they still get into the playoff with some kind of at-large bid? Because a lot of people around the country go, oh, my God, a 4-loss team?
Yeah, it would be ridiculous to allow a 4-loss team into the college football playoff. Here's the thing. Schedules can be hard.
Yeah.
But you still have to win those games. Like, that's the thing. Like, you can't reap the benefits of being in the most lucrative conferences in the country in terms of money, having the resources that come with that, the fan bases that come with that, being able to dominate recruiting every year, and then complain about not getting enough advantages. You already have a lot of them. This is supposed to be hard. That's like my only big thing. Like, yeah, and if you lose 4 games, yeah, there are things you could have done in those 4 games. That's the thing with Ole Miss and Alabama that drove me crazy this year. It wasn't like Ole Miss and Alabama lost to world beaters. South Carolina lost 3 games they were favored to lose, right? So that's why I understand that gripe significantly more, because they lost games that they were underdogs in. Ole Miss lost a game where they were 3 touchdown favorites in.
Yeah, in their park.
In their park. They lost a game where they were 10.5-point favorites in on the road.
Yep.
They lost those games. You should not lose those games. Alabama lost a game where they were also like 21-point favorites against Vanderbilt on the road.
And even if it was on the road, they had more fans.
Yeah, they had more fans. A road game at Vanderbilt isn't necessarily a road game if you talk about like crowd size, right? Yeah. And then they lost that game to Oklahoma where they were 2 touchdown favorites on the road and only scored 3 bleeping points.
Right.
Like, those were games you were supposed to win. The SEC could have gotten 5 in this year if the teams that were the best in the league won the games they're supposed to win. That was the difference between the Big Ten and the SEC this year, was the best teams in the Big Ten didn't lose to the middle-of-the-pack teams in that conference. The SEC did, and that was really why we're even having this conversation today.
If y'all want to hit us up on the text line, again, would you want we're getting closer. I think we all would love an SEC Big Ten challenge. I know I would. I won't speak for everybody and say it's 100%. I think that would be fantastic. And yes, I know South Carolina still would have Clemson every year. But again, you sign up to play with the biggest of the big boys. That's the neighborhood you live in, man. And you got to accept all that comes with it. You don't get to pick and choose. And I'm not just pointing that at South Carolina, because I think honestly, from what I've read, the biggest opponent to 9 get conference games or anything else has been Kentucky and Mark Stoops. Oh, hey, whoa. We don't want to lose.
He's like, I want to win 8 games every year. I can't win 8 games every year.
I got this, look at my schedule here. This is why I'm making a lot of money, because I'm beating Morehead State and whoever else.
I get to play the Eastern Kentucky once a year.
So hit us up, 803-404-6100. Come back on the other side. Fight brewing in Chapel Hill, but it's not what you think. And what might the ramifications be inside, wait for it, the Southeastern Conference? You heard me right. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Love telling you about our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union, and you may love the home you live in. Been there for a while, you and the family, built up some equity in the house, but also realized it's time for a little refresh. Well, if you are one of those homeowners and you've got that equity, take advantage of it with a home equity line of credit from Palmetto Citizens. Unlock your equity and access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period to assist with any of your needs and goals. Maybe it's time for a new kitchen. Maybe it's time for an extra bathroom as the kids get older, or a playroom for them. Or maybe you want to expand your back deck, put in a pool, whatever it is that you want to do in your home. Do it with Palmetto Citizens and do it with lower rates and fewer fees. They return their earnings to members because they're not for profit. Take advantage of what they can do for you. Check them out. Apply online, palmettocitizens.org, or stop into any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Join my wife and me as members at Palmetto Citizens. Welcome back in. Mitch Light of The Athletic will join us coming up in just a little bit, but wanted to get to something that's happening up in, I say happening. It's an interesting story. Elijah and I were discussing it the other day and thought, man, you know, this actually could lead us into a couple of different topics that could become a little bit fascinating. There's a story, Bree. Look, most of you know, of course, that this House versus NCAA settlement is expected to be cleared by Judge Claudia Wilkin later in the spring and then be implemented for the coming school year. There are couple of, I think, very small hurdles still to be jumped, but most experts agree that this is going to happen. So assuming that it does, for the sake of this discussion, as many of you have heard, for the next school year, schools would be allowed to spend a percentage of their budget up to, and this is where it gets a little tricky for some, but anyway, up to, for now, a $20.5 million. You could spend $20.5 million paying your players. You choose how you pay them. It's up to you. You can spend $20.5 million next school year to pay players. And all the big schools are all in on that number, right? Nobody's going to go, well, we've chosen to do $17.5 million and, $3 million to whatever.
If you got it, you spend it.
Yeah. So everybody's going to do it. And at North Carolina, it's interesting because, as all of you now know, Bill Belichick is the new football coach. And he's hired, his buddy Michael Lombardi from the NFL to be the GM, if you will, of the North Carolina football program. And they are going after a different caliber of football player. They're trying to keep a lot of the in-state kids that go to Tennessee and South Carolina and places like that. North Carolina gets rated pretty good, actually, by, Georgia recruits the heck out of Charlotte. The Raleigh area now has a lot of great players. South Carolina's done very well in southeastern North Carolina for years and basically considers Charlotte almost a hometown. Tennessee has long gone across the border. Hey, it's I-40. It's right here. Come on over. And so there's an internal struggle beginning to develop because it's no secret that North Carolina is first and foremost a basketball school, which is perfectly fine. But we know that football is they should be better at football.
They've underachieved.
For decades, my man.
They've underachieved, and especially the last couple of years. Not this year. This year, I think they kind of were what they were supposed to be. But when you had two NFL quarterbacks in succession
and didn't do anything with it,
you should maybe go to more than one ACC championship.
Yeah, you didn't do anything.
A little more competitive nationally.
But I've said before, be glad around here. A lot of schools, Tennessee, South Carolina, perhaps, especially Virginia Tech. Be glad that North Carolina doesn't care very much about football, because if they did, they could be just as good as Georgia in terms of talent. But anyway.
Lofty.
They are now beginning to struggle internally from things that have been out there this week about the allocation of said funds, because most schools are going to really use those funds for four programs. Depending on the school, you may see a little bit more allocated here or there, depending on the sport. Like, I imagine Iowa's going to pay some wrestlers, as an example, or something like that. But anyway, how much will they want for basketball? And that leads us into the next part of it, which is who's going to be coaching that basketball team? Because there's a feeling right now that Hubert Davis, God bless him, is skating on thin ice. And he may well be. They are, again, relative to expectation and resources and history, they are underachieving this year. And this is not the first time. Yeah, this is not the first time they've underachieved. And so while I sit here and want to talk as much about like how they might split the money, that's not my concern as much as what fascinated me as Elijah and I were hashing this story out is, where would North Carolina go? And that's what I teased going into the break. If I'm North Carolina, I've got to be looking first and foremost at the Southeastern Conference and going, all right, they're doing it right, and we're not these days. And we know how to do it right. It's just not getting done. And would North Carolina look inside the Southeastern Conference for its next head basketball coach? Now, I think a few people aren't going to do it that are good. Rick Barnes isn't going to North Carolina.
No, I think he's done with moving around. He might be done after this year.
I always listen. When he was at Texas, I was convinced as a North Carolinian that he was going to go to NC State, and he didn't want to touch NC State. Because I think he had a pick. I think he and his agent knew you'll have interest, because it just kind of ran its course in Austin, right?
It did. Yeah. The last couple of years.
He's been a godsend for the University of Tennessee, but I thought for sure that, again, being from North Carolina, that he'd go to State. I always thought that. I don't think North Carolina can hire Todd Golden. I just still think there's some toxicity there. He air quoting, passed a Title IX investigation. but I don't know that there was ever any real reason to think that he had violated Title IX by allegedly doing what he was accused of. North Carolina's not touching that PR nightmare. So that, it comes down to, Mark Pope's home.
Yeah, he's playing.
You're not hiring John Calipari. So you got like Chris Beard, who's played for a national title, has some personal baggage, but probably from a PR perspective could be overcome.
Because Ole Miss already took that bullet.
Yeah. But I'm looking more in the state of Alabama. And would North Carolina hire – now, Nate Oates has a gigantic buyout now because he signed a new deal last year. And it's massive. They could afford it, but it's massive. And that takes me to Bruce Pearl.
That's where it gets interesting. If you're Bruce Pearl, man, you have to listen. Would
North Carolina and Bruce Pearl want to – I think you sit down, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
What might that look like? Because
blood program, man.
Again, there are people that just are real Bruce Pearl haters, and I get why, and even some within his own profession, and I get why.
He's got his own baggage.
He does. But his baggage isn't PR baggage.
And it's baggage that isn't, if he did what he did to get him fired from UT or at Tennessee, then that's like legal now. I mean, or not legal. I mean, you still can't do the cookout thing. I guess technically it's still illegal.
Who was it? Austin Kraft? Is that right?
Aaron Kraft.
Aaron Kraft.
He tattled to Thad Matta, and Thad Matta reported him.
Yeah, and
then
again,
he lied about it.
Yeah, he did lie about it.
Yeah,
like
that's the bigger sin. The NCAA still doesn't like being lied to.
No, they don't. It's like Bruce, buddy. That's your house.
Bruce, that's you at the grill.
The picture in question is at your house. But again, he's overcome that. Mm-hmm. He's overcome that. And to your point, it's not as big a deal anymore. It's kind of like a Jim Tressel tattoo thing. Like, okay, yes, it was back then. And
that specifically is legal now.
You did break the rules, and we don't like that. And you willingly did it, and we don't like that. But, okay. That'd be fascinating, man. That'd be fascinating.
Well, that's the type of fish North Carolina needs to go fishing for.
Yeah.
Is that type of coach, someone who elevates programs that have no history of winning, but can win anywhere. I mean, like even before the three stops he's had at the Division I level of taking Auburn to their first Final Four, Tennessee to their first Elite Eight, Wisconsin, Milwaukee to a Sweet 16. He won a Division II national championship at Southern Indiana.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that program is now Division I, is because of the success they had in large part with what Bruce Pearl did with them in the early 2000s.
I'd be, again, I'm not hoping that Hubert Davis gets fired or anything, but
the writing might be on the wall.
And then again, in terms of the expenditures of players and things like that, I think North Carolina is going to make a big splash basketball-wise, too, like they have with Bill Belichick.
They kind of have to
I think they
at this point if they want to turn that thing around.
We'll come back around to, again, one of the developing stories of the week, the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten Conference meeting in New Orleans, discussing a lot of things around college football and the House settlement. Our buddy Mitch Light covers all of this for The Athletic. He will join us on the other side with his take on how those meetings have gone. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Feeling a little stiff when you wake up in the morning or after exercise or yard work or just life? Well, it's time for you to get into the Joint Chiropractic Centers and start feeling better. If you've been bothered by back, neck, shoulder, and joint pain, they are ready to help you out. You never need an appointment. You never have to worry about insurance. You can be in and out quickly. Don't have to miss lunch. Don't have to miss time at work. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 7, Saturdays, 10 until 4. And they are FSA and HSA approves. And also, once you start seeing the folks at the joint, if you're traveling out of town for work, vacation, sports, there's joint chiropractic centers all across the country. You'll be in this system, and they can help you out real quick. Chiropractic care can help maintain overall health, fix the problem, and regular adjustments make it easy to maintain the body. See them on Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. You don't have to feel bad to feel better at the joint.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Fontaine Road near Highway 555 at Farrow Road. Highway 707, got one on Laurel Street between Providence Street and Two Notch Road. One on Polo Road at Two Notch Road. Rawl Road at Smith Pond Road. And lastly, one on St. Andrews Road between US 176 at Broad River Road and I-26.
Talking the future of the college football playoff, the SEC's place in it, the Big Ten's place, everybody else's place in it. We'll get into that and more. We welcome back onto the program Mitch Light, covering college sports for The Athletic. Been with us many times, and a buddy of Elijah's from the Nashville days, at least for Mr. Campbell. Mitch, always good to have you. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yeah, it's very cold here, but I think it's cold where you are too. So
it's I was just telling Elijah it's about maybe mid to high 20s, and it's not comfortable, but yeah. But,
I got 40.
As we were talking to, it's college baseball season, of course.
Yes,
the 20s and there's snow on the ground. So let's play ball.
That's right. You should have seen it in Columbia yesterday. Anyway, all right. So play-in games for the SEC and Big Ten around the championship weekend. Big Ten SEC Challenge, 9 conference games for SEC schools, 4 automatic bids. Dogs and cats living together, Mitch. I don't know where to start you, but these are all topics that have been discussed this week at SEC Big Ten meetings down in New Orleans. Are we, I mean, I suppose just because of the time-space continuum, we're closer to some of these, but how much closer are we in your estimation from what could be some pretty heavy-hitting topics?
Yeah, the 9-game SEC schedule is like almost comical at this point because they've been talking about it for so long, and it's just like wake me when it's over, if it ever is over. And I just want to backtrack. Like, I love college football. You guys love college football, but this is going back to like the BCS days. The thing that's always aggravated me about college football is how we tweaked almost every year the way we decide a national championship. Like even in the BCS formulas, strength of schedule was overly valued one year. Then they decreased that, and then they would just constantly change the formula. AP poll counted one year, then it didn't count. Then we go to a playoff, and we actually had some consistency during the 4-team. It's just I cannot think of anything else like it that in a sport so popular where they change the format so frequently, even when like the format, like I said, doesn't change at the BCS, there's changes. And that's what we're doing now. We finally go to the 12-team and it's going to change and all that stuff. So that's kind of rambling right there. The one thing that really made sense, just listening to what's going on down there and reading some of our coverage at The Athletic about how the ratings for Big Ten versus SEC games have been so high in the past year, and how that really kind of opened up the eyes of the broadcast partner, or ESPN, and okay, maybe it is worth us, paying more for that 9th game, because that was the deal. They said we're not going to pay more if you guys go to 9 games. So if the SEC teams are like, well, if we're not getting more from our TV partners, why are we going to do it? So maybe they're going to pay up because those games, the ratings are so high. So that's what I could see changing there, going from 8 to 9, and. I've never had a problem with the 8. Big Ten fans will complain, we're playing 9, SEC's playing 8. I never thought that was that big of a deal because most SEC teams did have to play another power conference team anyway, and a lot of them do, like obviously South Carolina playing Clemson, Florida playing Florida State, Georgia playing Georgia Tech there. So I guess my long answer is I can see the SEC going to 9 now more so than I would have said about 2 months ago.
And the only thing about all the potential change I think I have the biggest problem with, Mitch, is the possible play-in. Mostly from a logistics standpoint. We already have a pretty rough calendar given transfer portal windows, given the length of the season, the fact that we played our national championship game on January 20th this year. I mean, do we really need to expand the season any longer? I mean, is that something that you think, would even be logistically possible?
Yeah, I agree a lot, Elijah. That's the thing about if they're going to tweak the conference championship in any form, get rid of it and move it, accelerate everything. I would love to see the season start in week 0. Not a lot. There are games. Logistically, it's possible. I mean, I know it's hot in a lot of places, but it can be done. And then you just move everything up if you eliminate the conference championship weekend. And then we can end the season at a realistic time. We saw, we all love it, college football fans, media, that we live for this stuff. But by January 20th, a lot of the public's kind of checked out, and kind of see that with the ratings and all that. So I would love for the season to end earlier. I like conference championship games. If they went away, wouldn't be the end of the world by any stretch. I don't love the play-in ideas, all that stuff. I think if you're going to play that weekend, you should have a true conference championship.
I agree with that 100%. The play-ins just, and that's TV inventory. And I get it, but told Elijah earlier, Mitch, I can get it and not want it. And those can be two different things. How did you take the 4 automatic bids for the SEC and Big Ten? Again, this is certainly in pencil. It wouldn't happen until 2026 anyway, but are they already kind of letting everybody know they're going to flex their muscle? And B, it feels to me like the Big Ten might be a little bit more supportive of 4 automatic bids than the Southeastern Conference, but I don't know if that's more like it could just be the way I'm looking at it right now. But are they closer to that, or should you leave it alone? And some years you might get 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're closer to that. I don't like it. I don't see the reason for it. I mean, I can see the SEC's relative indifference because most years, I think this was an aberration this year where they only got 3 teams in. I just don't like artificially setting limits on something. You know, it just doesn't make sense. College basketball, you know, we all love the NCAA tournament, and every conference gets one bid, but, you know, no one gets guaranteed 2, 3, 4, 5 bids. And if there's years where there's 6 Big Ten worthy teams, that's great. If there's years where there's 2 Big Ten worthy teams, then that's what we should get. I mean, I know why the leagues are pushing for it. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me, especially since they're probably going to be in that range anyway. I would just hate a scenario where you had a 3rd or a 4th ACC or Big 12 team that gets squeezed out because an Ole Miss team, I'm just picking Ole Miss randomly, right, you know, gets in because there has to be 4 SEC teams. It just seems so artificial and unnecessary to me.
And one thing that Jay and I kind of talked about, and I think this is the one change that I think most people can agree is probably the most sensible to a 12-team playoff format, is kind of the way we do the seeding and who we give the buys to, instead of, you know, the 4 best conference champions. And so just reseeding it at the, you know, pick your field and then reseed it from there, and the 4 highest seeds get, you know, the bye. And we kind of talked about what that would have looked like this year. You know, we had the Tennessee-Ohio State matchup in the playoff, but you probably don't get that. And we looked, you know, at what it would have been. We would have had, you know, like an Indiana-Boise State first-round game. Does maybe the TV implications of that become a hurdle to maybe making that type of change?
I don't think so. I think we're headed that way. I think it makes more sense. And, you know, it's as has been said many times, this format was constructed when the Pac-12 was still in existence. So there's one less automatic qualifier now. So I think we all – I appreciate the sentiment of rewarding the conference champions, but it just didn't work out. Like, I think rewarding the conference champions with an automatic bid is great. You don't need to give them a top 4 seed if they're, you know, one of the top 4 there. So I went into this thinking it wasn't that big of a deal, but I just did not love this, you know, the way it came about at the end. We did not have the best matchups throughout the entire bracket because of sort of the artificial seeding.
And I'll wrap it up for you this time, Mitch, with that very topic. The SEC and Big Ten are going to next week take the reseeding proposal to the full, you know, membership, if you will, 10 conferences plus Notre Dame. I don't think they'll have any problem getting Notre Dame to vote yes with them. But everybody else, what's the incentive? I mean, I've already seen that you know, the Big 12 has basically said, hey, Arizona State got more money for being in that top 4. Why would we vote for reseeding at this point in time? So what else is the SEC and Big Ten together going to have to do to persuade people next week to go vote for what they want?
Yeah, just to act like bullies that they are, basically. To your point, Jay, it's like, why would the Big 12, you know, it's like we agreed to this. Why? Because you didn't like the way it went about in year 1. We're going to change just because you said so. So, like, I totally do not see the incentive of the other leagues changing at this point. But, you know, we'll see what happens. We all know the Big Ten and the SEC carry the most weight. And they, you know, starting in 26 and after, they're going to be the drivers of all the decisions when things don't have to be unanimous.
It'll be fascinating, but, you know, they're not going to – I saw one thing today that said, well, they're just going to take their ball and go make their own tournament. No, they're not. I don't see that either, but we'll figure out where it goes. Always appreciate you. Next time we talk with you, we'll probably get into a lot more college baseball as well once we get closer to conference play. But thanks, as always, for the time, sir. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, guys.
You bet. That's Mitch Light of The Athletic. Very simply Mitch Light on Twitter. Easy to follow. Would you like to go to Carolina and Milwaukee tomorrow afternoon? Elijah has tickets. How many pair of tickets do we have, Elijah Campbell?
I believe we have 2.
I've got 2 family 4-packs. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So callers 5 and 6 right now. 2 family 4-packs for caller. What, you get a family 4-pack for caller 4? Or did I say 5? 5 and 6. 5 and 6. 5 and 6.
If you're caller 4, you get nothing.
Yeah.
You get nothing.
4 tickets for caller 5.
Good day, sir.
4 tickets for caller 6. 803-404-6100. Good luck. Welcome back in. Postgame show rolling on this Thursday. Jay and Elijah with you. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock. Coming up at the top of the hour. Headlines of the day. Got a lot to get to in the news, and we'll stay with our discussion of what's going on around the SEC and Big Ten meetings. At 5:15, Elijah and I will discuss those things, but from a more Gamecock-centric point of view, what might that look like for South Carolina if the SEC went to 9 and you played a Big Ten team out of conference? Because you're not losing the Clemson game. So, well, y'all think about that, and if you want to weigh in on what that might look and feel like, other than making everybody take a lot of Pepto before games, and not because of tailgating.
The stress of the season.
Yeah, man. You raised this point with Mitch Light just now, and again, thanks as always to Mitch for his time. This is from Scott Dockerman, who again we've been reading a lot of lately, and he was covering these meetings. Mitch alluded to some of the things that the Athletic was doing down in New Orleans. I'm just going to read you something verbatim here, and then we'll talk about it here real quick. So just bear with me, but listen closely, please. There will be a quiz. Scott writes, this is from today's edition of The Athletic. In the past 3 seasons, the leagues, that's Big Ten and SEC, the league's reach on linear, digital, and streaming platforms indicates why the SEC and Big Ten would be drawn to play each other more often. The teams that currently compete in the SEC appeared in 121 combined games, including 81 conference games, with at least 3.5 million viewers. The new look Big Ten, he writes, posted similar numbers, with its current 18 members appearing in 99 combined games, including 58 conference games, with the same viewing threshold. Then there's the rest of college football, which is partly why the SEC and Big Ten are attracted to each other. Teams comprising the current Big 12, 40, and ACC, 37, combined for 77 games, hitting 3.5 million viewers during that same 3-year period. Of those 77, only 23, 12 ACC, 11 Big 12, featured head-to-head matchups involving teams currently comprising the ACC or Big 12 conferences. So, in other words, the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten had 220 combined games from 21 to 23 that had more than 3.5 million viewers. That's basically a little less than 3 times the number of the ACC and the Big 12 and everybody else, by the way, but those are the main ones there. It's not to diminish the products per se. It's that the SEC and the Big Ten are looking at their television partners going, we got what y'all want because we got what people want. So why wouldn't we put ourselves in a position to have more teams in a playoff, or for you guys, Fox and Disney, to pay us? And let's remember, the Big Ten, Fox is their primary carrier, whereas Disney is the exclusive carrier now for the SEC. But they've also got Peacock, well, or NBC. They got games on Peacock. They got the CBS Game of the Week. So there's a lot of people that can make a lot of money on this. Is that going to matter? I think yes. To what degree, Elijah, I don't know. But these aren't opinions.
Those are the facts.
This happened. 220 combined games of more than 3.5 million, 77 for the next 2 leagues. That's a massive gap.
Mm-hmm. It is, and that's why, something like a Big Ten ACC or SEC challenge, could be lucrative in this field because that's more games. Some of the games that were the most watched in the college football season were like Alabama at Wisconsin and Texas at Michigan, right? Like that those drew some pretty big numbers. If everybody did it, that is just more money. And that's why I think we do end up seeing that. That's kind of like my biggest long shot prediction, because it's not as much a long shot. It's more like, a 3-pointer with your foot like an half inch behind the line. But I think, to keep with the basketball reference, that shot goes in.
Yeah.
Because there is a massive upside. And here's the thing, too. I still think they're going to get more teams in the playoff every year. Alabama still, they beat the brakes off Wisconsin, didn't get in the playoff, but they were still a 3-loss team that was the first team out, right? That game did not have any, implication whether they made it or not.
Right.
You can still get what you want in terms of playoff representation and still be able to continue shattering viewership records with big non-conference games.
It's fascinating, but again, some of these numbers do not lie. What story they tell, that could be a little bit different. And they'll have everybody's meeting next week. All these conferences meeting next week for CFP meetings. Headlines of the day coming up. AAA Heating and Air ready to help you out to stay nice and warm here. It's going to be cold again for a few days, y'all. But, look, not too long ago we had 80-degree days. Now we're going to have 20-degree nights. And your system could be getting taxed. 803-677-1500 is the number to call for AAA Heating and Air. Whether it's a quick service call because it's just not working right, or maybe you think it's time for something brand new, then call 803-677-1500. And speaking of brand new, Roy and Dana Finley still have an amazing opportunity for you. 12 months, no payments, no interest, guaranteed financing, $1,500 system buyback rebate, and a 15-year parts and labor guarantee on the system that they install. And they work quickly. So if you need it, they can get it done for you here in just a couple of days. You can also go to call888.com, get a free quote, or better yet, call them up and speak with the great folks. 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you to AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. With a few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one on Bush River Road between US 176 at Broad River Road at Latonia Drive. We have one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Fontaine Road, Jessamine Road at US 1 at Augusta Road, Laurel Street at Assembly Street, and lastly, one on St. Andrews Road between US 176 at Broad River Road and I-26.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We start with Carolina baseball. Coach Paul Mainieri goes to 5-0 in the Gamecock era of his career, and he's moved. He's getting real close to like top 5 all time in career wins, which is very cool. Carolina beating Queens yesterday by a count of 7-2, and if you add 7 plus 2, that's about how many people were at the game yesterday because.
It's cold.
It was cold.
Raining.
Might have been a few more than that, but not too many. But, hey, you had to play the game because you scheduled the game and you could play the game. So you play the game. Coach Paul Mainieri talking about what it was like to win a game like that when it was, cold and kind of gross.
But, that's the thing is from day one, we preach to the players. I don't even let them talk about the weather. And I test them every so often, and when I say something about the weather, they all scream back at me. Nobody's allowed to talk about the weather. A beautiful day is when you're able to play. If you get out on the field, it's a good day. Whether it's cold, hot, windy, wet, dry, it doesn't matter. And so you prepare them for days like this. But today was a test. I mean, I don't care how much you put it out of your mind. It was cold, it was wet, it was windy. Those were as difficult a conditions as you can play. But I also told them that, look, you someday want to play professional baseball. They start the season April 1st in northern cities. And in the minor leagues, it's going to be cold, much less in the big leagues. I mean, if you're playing in Wrigley Field or Fenway Park or Milwaukee or wherever, you're going to play in some cold conditions, and they don't put an asterisk next to the statistics or the wins and losses where the games are played in less than ideal conditions. So you have to handle it all. And I told him after the game, I'm certainly convinced that no matter what is thrown our way this year with regard to conditions, we'll be ready to handle it. Because and I thought they handled it tremendously tonight. I really think we played a solid game, hit the ball hard, and really played a good game all around.
Took a little while to get going, but once they did, everything was fine. Again, Carolina wins it 7-2. No game today. Coach Mainieri did have a press conference a little bit earlier. We'll have some of that for you on tomorrow's program. Ahead of the opener of the weekend series against Milwaukee, which will begin tomorrow at 4. So it's our 1 week here of abbreviated programs because of baseball. I think that all goes away next week.
Yep, this happens every year.
Yeah.
This is the shortened show week.
And speaking of which, not now, so don't call now, but in a little bit. Oh, no, wait, we already given away the baseball tickets. No, what do we? We have Dirks Bentley tickets to give away.
Yes.
Sorry.
Later in the show.
I almost screwed up and forced somebody to go buy some extra baseball tickets.
You about goofed.
I did.
That was close.
Well, it's our first show together, a full show in a week, man. I forgot how to do my job.
Yeah, after 3:45, yeah.
Yeah. No show Monday and 2 41-minute shows if you think about it.
Sat here and filled in for Terry on his show for a little bit, and I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. But, Dirks Bentley concert tickets. We'll do that a little bit later on for you. He's playing in Charlotte later this year. I think it's in August.
August 9th, to be specific.
Look at you.
I read the text message in its entirety. I'm surprised I remembered it.
I got August right.
You nailed it. Yeah, you have a 1 in 12 chance if you were just to guess.
That's true. And then a 1 in 31 chance of a date.
Yeah. I mean, the 1 in 12, that's less than 10%. So if you were guessing, that was a really good
Pretty
guess.
good, man.
It was well done.
No, I saw that it was August. I do recall that there was a date. I just didn't remember it. But I'm glad you did. That's what we're here for.
That's right.
That's right. That's what teamwork is all about. Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day, really rough news out of the NBA today as the Spurs have announced that Victor Wembanyama will miss the remainder of the season. He's got what has been diagnosed as deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. It's a type of blood clot. It was discovered after he got back to San Antonio from the All-Star game. It will be treated primarily with blood thinners, and that means that a player cannot participate in really, for those who say, well, basketball is not a contact sport, it is.
It is, yes.
It is.
Those who say that have never played basketball.
No, it's a contact sport. And I'm not sure many people do say that, but, well, it's not football or hockey. I get it. It's not, but.
Yes, it's factually correct. They are different sports, yes.
Plenty of contact. Just because you don't wear a lot of pads like you do in football and hockey doesn't mean it's not a contact sport. He started to feel some symptoms recently, but thought it was going to get better. But when he got back, he wanted to get it checked out. He did. They think that he will make a full recovery over the summer and be ready for the beginning of the 25 season. Of course, he's the Rookie of the Year. Last year, this season, he is averaging 24.3 points, 11 boards, 3.7 assists. He leads the league with 3.8 blocks per game. Spurs, they're not headed. They did need a lot of work to get into the playoffs anyway. And so it may just be the most ideal thing for them to go ahead and shut him down now. I mean, they have to. I mean, he can't play.
There's no option here.
Yeah, he can't play. So I guess the point I'm making is at this point in their season, how damaging is it? It's not. They knew all along they needed to add quality talent in the offseason.
Yeah.
But it still stinks for him.
It does.
Because I think you made a great point earlier about sort of his role as a basketball player.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 7'4". He plays the center position, but he also shoots 8 threes a game, almost 9 threes a game.
And the bigger picture point you made too, I was alluding to, he's going to be the face of the league.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a global superstar. This is somebody who, helped lead his team to play the United States in the medal round, and is only how old is he? 20?
Yeah, I mean
21.
Let's see. I got his basketball reference page pulled up right here. He is 21.
Yeah, just turned.
Yep, on January 4th.
Yeah, just turned a month ago. Turned 21, so a month and a half. So
he was born in 2004.
That's great. Man. Yeah, he's young.
Wild. He's
younger than 2 of my children, but that's another story altogether. But hopefully he'll be fine because, again, this is someone who I don't like throwing around the term unicorn very often.
Oh, that's it.
But for somebody, I mean, for someone who is 7'4" and plays like he's 6'4", it's pretty remarkable. And I hope there's other things about him too that I worry about. Getting undercut, just a lot of wear and tear on those, long legs and knees, things like that can hamper the big men. So here's hoping.
The funniest thing I think I've done in the last few years, my dad came to visit, and he doesn't really watch the NBA anymore. Probably hasn't watched in about a decade and a half. And I just asked if he's heard of Victor Wembanyama. And he's like, no. And I was like, well, let me show you some highlights. And I showed him an hour-long rookie season highlight compilation of Victor Wembanyama. And you would have just thought that I showed him a time machine.
Right.
Like this, it's in utter disbelief. Oh, my God. Like that you'd get from him every 30 seconds.
Did you not feel bad, though, showing your dad an hour-long highlight reel? I mean...
Well, no, he didn't take his eyes off the TV for that full hour.
All right.
Mesmerized, absolutely mesmerized that someone like Victor Wembanyama exists. To give you an idea of just how rare someone who's 7'4", who moves like that and shoots like that and is as athletic as he is, exists. That man who's watched basketball his entire life, still watches college basketball on a nightly basis, just could not believe what he was watching on that television.
It is it's special. And again, I hope in all seriousness that, because this is probably the last thing any of us would have thought of that was going to be something that could hamper his career.
Mm-hmm. You just hope it doesn't do anything like that long
If you had
term.
said an ankle, a knee, a hip, I'd have said, yep.
Would make sense.
Yep, but not this. So hopefully he's going to be okay. Continuing our integrated media headlines of the day, staying with basketball, the University of Texas today approved a 3-year contract extension for Vic Schaefer, the women's basketball coach. This now runs through the 2030 season. He's in his 5th year at UT. He has led the Longhorns to 3 Elite Eights. They are currently, of course, number 2 in the country, tied for the lead in the SEC with South Carolina. They've split so far with the Gamecocks. His annual base of $2.3 million remains the same until 27, then goes up $100,000 each year of the extension to $2.6 million by 2030. And remember, this is the man who led Mississippi State to the Final Four in 2017, and South Carolina, of course, beat them for the national title that year to get there first under Dawn Staley. This man can coach.
He's very good. Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame head coach.
Let's see. This is an interesting one here. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and along with Tiger Woods and Adam Scott met with White House officials today. It does not say that they were meeting with the president, but they hope it is another step in the reunification of men's professional golf. Adam Scott and Commissioner Monahan did meet with President Trump February 4th to just start to kind of get the ball rolling. I suppose adding Tiger Woods to the mix is helpful. It doesn't say here that anything else has really come of it. So what exactly Tiger lends to the conversation, I don't know. I'm a huge golf fan, and I hope this happens. This is me editorializing now. I don't give two you-know-whats about the LIV Tour. I don't watch the LIV Tour. There's only a couple of guys on the LIV Tour that I would want to watch anyway, and I'll just wait and see them
in the majors
when they play in majors because they've both won the Masters. And in that case, I'm talking about John Rahm and Dustin Johnson. Other than that, I know there's other guys that are good that are out there, but I'm a PGA guy, so we'll see. But hey, one more step.
How many people do you think actually would tune in to LIV golf events on a weekly basis? Like, don't miss one. I think that has to be a really small number.
I would be surprised if that's a 6-figure number.
Yeah, I would be startled.
Yeah,
and that would be putting it mildly.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's a 6-figure number.
Which is wild considering how much money was.
I don't even know how many LIV events have eclipsed 1 million. I mean, at least now they're going to get some on a major network this year, but I don't know how much it's going to help.
What major network are they on?
I think they're going to have a few on Fox.
Interesting. They've moved from the CW. Congratulations.
All right. Yeah. Well, and remember,
what else is going to be playing before Ghost Hunters? I don't know.
There was this story last year where, like, across all kinds of markets, it was supposed to end at 7. And, live sporting events typically will run over. But, like, on all kinds of CW affiliates, it went to, like, Family Feud or whatever.
Criminal Minds reruns.
Yeah, it just left. And I was like, that's what did you expect? More people want to watch Steve Harvey.
People tune into the CW for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they want to watch, Family Feud. They don't want to watch LIV golf.
Buddy, when my TV guide says the Dawson's Creek rerun comes on at 7, Dawson's Creek rerun comes on at 7.
My kids used to watch The Flash, so I get it. Well, that was CW, right?
I think so. I think that was CW.
I think so. I don't know. Anyway, Tiger Woods is now helping out, so let's see if it makes a difference. We shall see. That's our integrated media headlines of the day, 803-948-8327. No matter what you watch or where you watch it, you can do it better with integrated media, whether it's any kind of professional golf or game shows or, hey, your choice, man.
Oh, man, I bet a Criminal Minds rerun would absolutely go hard in one of those systems they put up.
Sure. Good stuff. Call them up, 803-948-8327, Integrated Media. All right, the SEC and the Big Ten talking about scheduling formats, including a potential SEC Big Ten football challenge. We've seen these things in basketball. Would it work in football? But more importantly, Gamecock fans, how would you like that? Would you like 9 conference games and a Big Ten challenge game and a Clemson game, all in a 12-game schedule? We'll discuss when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Before we get to anything else, one more piece of breaking news, and it is bad news for Carolina baseball fans. Eli Jerzenbeck will indeed miss the entire season. Just announced a little while ago. He did. We told you last week he had a few issues. A lot of folks were wondering why he didn't earn a spot in the rotation, considering that he had his surgery and seemingly had a good fall. But they discovered a stress fracture, did the doctors, in his right elbow, and he will have to undergo surgery next week. Missed all of last year after Tommy John surgery, and really missed most of 2023. John Whittle reporting that while both of these are right elbow injuries, they are separate injuries. Nevertheless, Eli Jerzenbeck, sadly, is going to miss yet another full season. And I would imagine, this is totally me speculating, I'll be very careful, but he still has a lot of promise for the next level. He's basically going to be done with college pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll be surprised if he pitches in college again. And he may need to, though. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. But considering what's going on and considering what you still want to do and how young you are and those kinds of things, it may be that maybe he comes around and, hey, I need to pitch in college for a year before I go, to the minors.
That might be the feedback he gets.
Yeah, or, hey, up your draft stock, show him you can pitch. Because, somebody will take a chance on him just based on what he looked like in high school. I promise you, he'll get his opportunity. They know their
drafts on
stuff.
Potential more than Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. So he's done enough from a pitching perspective, but now with the medical stuff, can you pitch? But they could, I don't mean this in any negative way, but a big league club could just say, hey, look, here's $200,000, man, and go pitch, see what happens, something. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see him pitch here. I'd like to see him pitch wherever he can pitch.
Would like to see him get back on the mound anywhere. Yeah. I know he would too. But I 2 straight years is tough, even mentally from the mental aspect.
I wonder at this point if you pitch again in college, or if you just because again, well, I don't know. I don't know. Here's hoping. And again, that's just me talking. That's not anything that's in here. But we'll see. But that's sad news.
Yeah,
sad news.
A tough blow.
Just threw out a flash poll.
Easy there, Jay. There's kids here.
I didn't flash anybody. That's in the 4th hour, man. You knew that.
That's true, too. I didn't know if you shifted some things around on the show.
I forgot how to do it.
I was not made privy to.
Yeah, I forgot how to do the show, so it doesn't matter. If you're a Gamecock football fan, would you be in favor of 9 conference games, a Big Ten Challenge game, and the Clemson game each season? I just threw this out. 2 choices. Yes, that's big time. No, that's too hard. I didn't have any middle ground because I don't know that there is middle ground.
Nope.
But are we inching closer to something like this? I think the answer is yes. If you missed it last hour, Elijah and I were talking about Scott Dockerman's latest piece from The Athletic discussing the facts of just how big SEC and Big Ten football are in relation to the ACC and Big 12. And I realize, too, look, I'm not naive. South Carolina's place within that structure as we speak is still limited relative to a Bama, a Georgia, a Michigan, and Ohio State. Everybody gets that. Those are the big timers, right? Texas is now here. Even though Oklahoma had a bad season, Oklahoma is here. I get it. But Carolina got talked about a lot. Carolina recruited well. Carolina has a Heisman candidate quarterback. And if Shane continues on these trajectories, what's to say that you can't? I think there's every reason to believe that the way Mississippi and Tennessee are thought of right now, South Carolina could do that. I don't want to go like that, but you could get to that level next year if you have another good season.
That's what makes this year such a big year.
Yeah.
Because you have momentum to capitalize on.
I mean, you could get, because again, Tennessee made the playoff, Mississippi did not. Mississippi came in here and beat you, but you could get close to where they are. You both went 9-3 and blah blah blah. Right? So you're close to that. Now again, being discussed like an Alabama or a Georgia, you better go win some championships, plural. But that's a story for another day. So hit me up real quick. I know a lot of you are probably driving right now, so you probably can't hit me up. And I'm only going to run this. The least amount of time I can have, like an hour, so I just put an hour. I just flash poll. We might revisit some of this tomorrow. It would be hard. But you know what? Let's just take Florida. If you're Florida and you play 9 conference games and a Big Ten team, and you have Florida State, who, again, won't win, they'll be better.
They'll be 2-10 every year.
Yeah, I know a lot of people would like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Again, will they ever return to 90s FSU? I don't know. But I expect them to be better than 2-10. Somewhere between 13-0 and 2-10 is where I expect Florida State to be on a more. Anyway, you see the point I'm making.
Totally not a wide range at all.
That would be really hard for Florida. And Florida has annual games with Georgia and LSU, in addition, in conference play, right? In addition to a Florida State. And then if Florida played Penn State or Purdue or Illinois, I don't care. Mm-hmm. It'd be hard for everybody. It would be less difficult for some, I think, is the way I would like to say it. I don't want to say easier. I think less difficult is the better way to put it from a semantic standpoint. But, I mean, if you sign me up, man.
Yeah.
But I know not a lot of fans around here don't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah. Oh, and like my thing is always, and I will keep coming back to this point, like making the college football playoff is supposed to be hard. But, I mean, this will, in turn, help you financially, and that should, in turn, be able to help you keep loading up a roster every year, especially with having a head coach who's a really good recruiter. Shane's a really good recruiter. You're going to be in the top 20 of recruiting classes, I feel like, pretty consistently every year, right? I mean, you already have shown the ability to get very well-known talent like Dylan Stewart here, who, like, a no-brainer, one of the best high school players in America, and then a no-brainer, one of the best freshmen in all of college football. And then you've been able to find kind of like the, quote, diamonds in the rough. Like, Lenore Sellers was committed to go to Syracuse.
Yep.
I would say significantly overlooked at the high school level, given his production at the back half of his first year as a starter. Yeah, you'd take any team. Nicky Manwari. I mean, anybody would take those. You're about to have an NFL draft come up where at least, and I'm saying at least, 4 players will be taken before rounds 4.
Yeah.
I
look at a guy that developed like Josh Simon, who had a good career when he left Western Kentucky, but I mean, came here, and I think he's elevated.
This past year, he definitely elevated that profile. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Josh Simon stayed like the 5th or 6th
developed into a better. I mean, so development is crucial, but they're doing it.
Yeah, and they're doing it well.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. You can continue to do that and continue to win football games. Look, I mean, you were so close this year. Like, you are, a bad call away from winning the LSU game. You are, maybe 1-2 point conversion away from pushing Alabama to overtime. And if you win that game, like, you're in the playoff, right? Like, that's how close, like, the margins were that kept you out of the college football playoff this year. It will be harder given the schedule that we have laid out in this hypothetical here, but that also elevates your program because you are constantly at that point in the spotlight.
So hit us up at jphillips1075. Elijah just retweeted it too, so you can go to 1075 The Game on Twitter if you'd like. If you're a Gamecock football fan, would you be in favor of 9 conference games, a Big Ten Challenge game, and the Clemson game each season? And yes, that would leave you one more game to schedule somebody.
And here's the thing too. If we're being honest with ourselves, as it pertains to the Big Ten Challenge, you're not getting Ohio State or Michigan, Penn State. That's not who you're going to be playing.
No, you'll be playing Purdue, Illinois, Minnesota.
Which are games you
somebody
should
like
win.
that. Yeah.
Illinois maybe.
And again, I'd love to
crack at Illinois.
But, yeah, that'd be great. Or go out to UCLA or go out to Seattle and play Washington. Heck, I wouldn't mind playing Oregon. I play, but it's not going to be Ohio State. You're right, because Ohio State they would pair up with Georgia or Bama or LSU, because that's what this would be. This is how these things. That's why Auburn played Duke in the ACC SEC basketball challenge.
Really, the schools in the SEC that would object would be those top top teams because the Big Ten is so top heavy.
Yeah. So hit us up. We'll continue to discuss it. I'll ask you, for those of you who just tuned in, I'll tell you why we're asking this today, because there is a reason you're listening to the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to, they're causing some issues on the roadways. We have one on Bush River Road between US 176 and Broad River Road, one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near Fontaine Road, one on Jessamine Road at US 1 and Augusta Road, Laurel Street at Assembly Street, South Carolina 277 northbound after South Carolina 555 and Farrow Road. And lastly, one that's been causing some issues for about the last hour and a half over on St. Andrews Road between US 176 at Broad River Road and I-26.
It is drive around the SEC time. Sorry, I was waiting for the music. But there's no music there right now. We'll fix that.
Surprise.
Hi. See, I've forgotten how the show goes because it's been a week since we had that. Sorry. How you doing?
Hey, you haven't called the show by the wrong name yet, so
I was convinced I was going to the day you were gone last week for the opening day special. And
technically, you were kind of doing the halftime.
Well, and that was the Sounders were there for the halftime show. And I was like, man, this is just going to completely reset my brain.
I was going to ruin you for
after
a week.
16 years of doing the halftime show. But you know what? I didn't call it that one time.
Look at you.
I didn't say postgame show either. I just kept awkwardly saying, like, it's our opening day special.
This sounds like a restaurant that opened where half the menu's discounted.
Yeah, something like that.
Our opening day special.
Anyway, welcome back
Sausage
in.
and biscuits, half off.
By the way, I just retweeted this from Jeff. It looks like one of those things, like, what was it called? Like the little, like, spirograph thing that you could, like, draw cool shapes and stuff with.
Looks like the stuff Aaron Rodgers sees whenever he takes psychedelics on his retreats.
But it actually is pretty cool on a scheduling format. So I don't know where Jeff got that, but thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Again, if you're just tuning in, and we will get to, like, basketball results and tonight's women's basketball schedule and stuff like that. But just threw out a flash poll. If you're a Gamecock football fan, would you be in favor of 9 conference games, a Big Ten Challenge game, and the Clemson game each season? Now, that's 11, so you'd still get to get your Akron or Old Dominion or whomever in every year. The reason we're asking this today is because the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten Conference did meet this week, and that's been a lot of what we've done on the show today. If you just tuned in here in the 5 o'clock hour, nothing definitive yet, but there is now growing momentum for the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten to get together and do one of these, and for one main reason. People will watch it, and they know it. And so do their television partners. And again, Scott Dockerman of The Athletic had a piece today illustrating just how much more popular SEC and or Big Ten games are relative to ACC and Big 12. And you may go, well, duh. But it's like, in terms of games over the last 3 seasons that had 3.5 million or more viewers, there were 220 combined with SEC and or Big Ten schools. There were 77 combined with Big 12 and or ACC schools. And only a percentage of those Big 12 and ACC games were conference games. Others were actually when they faced someone from another conference. You know, again, a Florida State type of a game, or even a Carolina Clemson, things like that. So the number, and again, those are facts. That's not, you can't just go, well, I think more people might watch some. No. Here, these are facts.
the TV numbers.
Yeah, these are facts. These things happened. And so that begs the question, what would that look like? Now, if you're South Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, I was even telling you, even like Tennessee and Auburn, who you may think of as mightier than you, A&M might go gulp. And listen, if you told Alabama and Kalen DeBoer or whoever, hey, that Wisconsin game last year? Yeah, we're replacing that. Oh, yeah, with who? Ohio State. Gulp. Now, you like your chances.
Who knows? With the way Alabama played last year, maybe they'd rather play Ohio State as opposed to Purdue because they might lose to Purdue.
Maybe.
If they're 2 touchdown favorites.
But this, I think we're inching closer to something like this. Look, I've long been in favor of more conference games for a variety of reasons. Most notably, you're in a conference, play the conference and see each other. Again, a couple years ago when Bama hadn't gone to Gainesville in like 11 years or something. That was dumb. I'm still, help me out, Elijah. Has A&M ever been to Athens?
No.
That's stupid.
Ever.
That's stupid. And this is now like their 13th year in the conference.
I don't think they've ever played, right?
Maybe they did play one. I don't know, but I think once they redid the format again, like the rotation never accounted for A&M to go to. I think that's right. I mean, don't quote me on that, but you might be able to look that up.
Yeah, I'm looking that up.
But I feel like A&M has never, at least as a conference member, ever gone to Athens. But I could be wrong. Anyway, I don't know what I'm expecting out of this. And again, I just put this up a couple of minutes ago. But again, if you're a Gamecock football fan, would you be in favor of 9 conference games, a Big Ten Challenge game, and the Clemson game each season? A, yes, that's big time. B, no, that's too hard. It's pretty tight, y'all. 59.8% say yes. So 40.2 say no. That's too hard. And at that point, which one do you eliminate? I suppose you wouldn't want to play a Big Ten game at that point. And remember, too, and Elijah made this point, I think some of you, if you see this, you just think, I don't want to play Ohio State. Carolina's not going to draw Ohio State in the Big Ten Challenge. Carolina's going to draw somebody along Carolina's lines. So, again, you might,
Southern Cal.
Maybe, yeah, which is interesting. But, think Purdue, Illinois,
Iowa, maybe.
Minnesota, Iowa, yeah. I think that's more in line. Michigan State, that's more in line. And then I've seen some suggestions. So, again, to maybe discount what I'm saying right there. And remember, two Big Ten schools wouldn't get to participate in any given year. I've also seen them that you basically schedule a weekend, and you find a way for 1 year you play at home and 1 year you don't, but that you would match them up standings wise, so you wouldn't actually know until the end of the regular season or some such which school you would be playing next season. So one would play one and so on down the line.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, too, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think it has a sense of recency to it with who's doing what relative to just trying to do nothing but name brand matchups. You'll still get all the name brands to be playing. And rare is the day where, suddenly, let's just say, Penn State and Tennessee finish, 12th. And even if they did, all right, well, cool. Still get a Penn State-Tennessee game, right? Or Auburn to play Michigan. It doesn't matter. I'd be all for this. I get it. It would be hard. So I should have almost put C, like, yes, because it's hard.
Yeah. It's supposed to be.
It is. I mean, this is what you signed up for. Yeah, and I think you just got to do it. Would you rather play Illinois or Minnesota or Akron or Old Dominion? And I know some of you are going to say, I want to play a game that I know we're going to win. Well, I get it, but when it's held against you, what good does it do you if you won? If you just want to go this, and again, part of this, in my opinion, is that the entire nation that loves college football is going to have to begin starting, honestly, Elijah, last season with letting go of some of the things that we believe have always made college football so much fun, or so unique in that, hey, the undefeated teams are the ones that are the best. Maybe, but not necessarily.
Right.
And so from that perspective, this would be something where you could be challenged, and you don't want it to harm your ability to make the playoff, which is why, to come back around to, again, the topical discussions of the week, that the Southeastern Conference and Big Ten are very likely going to push to get automatic qualification spots in the new 2026 and beyond college football playoff. Again, that won't happen this season, but 26 through 31, they're going to push. It feels like they're going to push for 4 definite spots. And if it goes to 16, let's say you had 4 for the SEC and Big Ten, there's 8. 2 for the ACC and Big 12, there's 12. A slot for the G5 winner, there's 13, and then 3 at-larges. And more often than not, I would think in today's world, Notre Dame's going to grab one of those.
Yep.
So that leaves 2. Could be an SEC school, could be a Big 12 school. I don't know. Could be Southern Miss, man. Maybe Southern Miss goes 12-0. We'll see.
New coach, maybe. Charles Huff's in town.
Hit us up, and we'll give you some results and finish the drive around the SEC right after this. All right, welcome back in. We got an action-packed final, 6 minutes of the show. First off, right now, callers, how many we got left? 2 left?
Yeah,
just 2 pair? If you want to go see Dierks Bentley, August the 9th up in Charlotte. I'm not sure when tickets go on sale, but I think it's soon. Maybe even tomorrow. I don't know. But we have a couple of pair right now. If you'd like to go see Dierks Bentley and you know who you are if you're a Dierks Bentley fan. Callers 5 and 6, 803-404-6100. 803-404-6100. Elijah is going to give you his tickets.
That's right. You're getting mine.
To see Dierks Bentley in August 9, up in Charlotte. In the meantime, let me get on the phone line. Well, Wooly wants to talk about our poll question. Hey, Wooly, good afternoon.
First off, guys, I love the show.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm going to make a quick comment and then another quick comment, and then I'll hang up. Anyone, anywhere, anytime, as far as football goes, and as a three-piece Minutemen from Pedro, California.
Ooh, okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that was an earlier topic. Thank you, Wooly. Appreciate you, bud. Yeah, look, I think a lot of people feel that way, but I've had a few that don't. Albert hits me and says no. Basically, he says that we play a gauntlet as is. It is, but that's the Southeastern Conference. And yeah, you have Clemson built in. Our buddy Michael Geddes from Integrated Media hits us, says it would be interesting to see if this, if this were to come to fruition, he means, would have pressure to move the Clemson game from the last game of the season. I hadn't thought about that, but potentially, not all in-state rivalry games are played at the end of the year. Most obviously are. I don't know. Probably not. It might depend on how they wanted to do certain things, because I would think these Big Ten games, if they were to do something like this, I would think that would happen within the first 3 weeks of the season. I don't even know if you do it like all in one weekend. I don't think you would. That's a lot of games, man. So you'd probably need to stretch that out over maybe a 3-week period, right? Because you're talking about 16 games. So you'd probably go like, I don't know, 5 and 6 or something like that over the first 3 weeks. But I would think that you would at least want those all played probably in September. So I don't know. But again, if you've just tuned in, asking you again, just based on some of the news that's trickling out of the SEC Big Ten meetings, the SEC itself, Big Ten already plays 9 conference games. The SEC is now discussing that again. And like Mitch Light of The Athletic, who joined us earlier, said, yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Just either do it or don't. He's right, by the way. Just do it or don't. But they're waiting for more money from Disney, and Disney right now is, like a lot of companies, trying to figure out what's going on. So they haven't been promised more money, the SEC that is, from Disney for more quality content. And they have discussed a Big Ten SEC challenge because, again, the numbers bear out over the last 3 seasons just how much more popular SEC or Big Ten schools are on television than the combination of Big 12 and ACC schools are. That's a reality. That's not an opinion. 220 combined games, SEC Big Ten drew better than 3.5 million. 77 combined games, Big 12 ACC drew better than 3.5 million. So nearly a little less than 3 times the number. Those are business facts. By the way, speaking of facts, a quick note. Elijah did look it up for me. I had it reversed. A&M did go to Georgia in 2019. Georgia has yet to play A&M in College Station. And A&M joined the conference in 2012. Again, that's the madness of what we're doing. And when is Georgia going to go to A&M, Elijah? Not next year.
I don't think it's scheduled.
It's not. I know it's not, because all we have
schedule this year.
Yeah, all we have is a schedule for this year. We don't even know what 26 looks like yet. Maybe in 26. Maybe.
In the conference's defense, who knows what 2026 looks like.
Exactly.
The future isn't guaranteed.
But right now,
that's why they call it the present.
59% say yes, you would like to, if you're a Carolina fan, you would be in favor of 9 conference games, a Big Ten Challenge game, and the Clemson game. So 59% to 41. It's exactly 100 votes at this point in time. And to Willie's point, I think a lot of you, bring it. I mean, this is what you do. This is what you signed up for.
Big boy college football.
Yeah. You know, it is daunting. It's daunting for everybody. I promise you. Kirby Smart would look at a schedule that included, you know, maybe an improved Georgia Tech and a game against Penn State or Michigan and go, and we got Florida, and we got Tennessee, and we got Auburn, and we got South Carolina, and whoever else.
Yeah, Kirby will find a way to complain.
Oh yeah, they want us to lose all of them. Good stuff, y'all. Appreciate you. We will do it again tomorrow ahead of Carolina baseball. For Elijah, I'm Jay. See ya.